In past videos, we've talked about the Freedom of Information Act. But what in the world does that even mean? Well, let's get into it. Intro. Come on in and have a seat. Ben Weaver here, an Illinois attorney and founder of 23 Legal. I provide personal, practical, and professional legal service by guiding clients through the process of buying and selling a house throughout Chicago and its suburbs. With me as always is Adam Carr, who's really struggling with the fact that 2002 was 20 years ago at this point.
You know, 20 years ago feels like the 80s, early 90s. Not the millennium. This is wrong.
Yeah, well, let's go back to that Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys.
Oh, goodness.
Well, today we're going to look into the Freedom of Information Act, a little bit of the history, and how we use it in the real estate world. So, the Freedom of Information Act had to start somewhere. And when was that start, you ask? Well, in 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed across...
Not that far back.
Okay. We'll do the quick version. So let's jump ahead just a little bit. The Freedom of Information Act was enacted in 1967, and most people tend to think of Foia as something journalists use for hard, deep-digging news stories. The reality is, however, that the news industry only makes up about 10% of all requests. The rest of those requests are done by people like us in the corporate world. It allows us to access government documents and know we're in accordance with any state, city guidelines, and know that our paperwork and property lines line up with what our local government lines say. Also, the government is required to provide any paperwork they have on fines, permit violations, and other records they have on file. And why is it important that we do this for the buyer? Well, we don't want the buyer to inherit the seller's problems. You see, the seller affirms in paragraph 22 of the standard Chicagoland real estate contract that they do not know of any municipal violations on the property. However, just because they're unaware of a violation doesn't mean one does not exist. We have the ability to take control of the situation through the Foia report. So let's go ahead and do it. Ignorance is not an acceptable reason to turn a blind eye to the seller's obligations to the city. Ordering the Foia request ensures that we are not being held responsible for any of the unexpected violations or fines, and that we can stay one step ahead of the game, and it also gives us the opportunity to correct those issues before closing. It's important to note that each municipality is different. While they are all required by law to fulfill our requests, the way to go about receiving that information changes by each city, village, and town. And this is where 23 Legal's expertise comes in. We've done countless Foia requests over the years, and we'll be doing countless more in the future. Retaining an attorney whose firm not only knows how to communicate with the local governments, but also understands the returning paperwork will save the seller, the buyer, and all the parties a tremendous amount of time and headaches. Hey, have you ever sold your house and had to deal with any property violations? Leave it in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. Please like the video if you learned something new, and subscribe for more content about real estate law in Illinois. I'm Ben Weaver, woman taking new contracts and clients, and I'll see you in the next video.